now. Awesome. There we go. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. We just thought this would be a really useful session to run. We're still catching up on Dreamforce, but between us as a team, we've managed to watch a fair few different bits of it, and we were definitely coming away with some useful tidbits and top tips that we just wanted to share with you. You know, it's a common theme in Salesforce that no one can know everything and no one can see all of Dreamforce, I don't think either. So we wanted to spread ourselves out, watch a few different sessions each, and then come back to you with some top tips and takeaways from some of the sessions that we've seen. And we'll also put the links in the chat for those particular sessions, because I think there are a few that, you know, if you only have time to watch one or two, I think the team have definitely got some recommendations based on your input. It can be a bit overwhelming. I know certainly I was lucky enough to go in real life and almost online as well. There is such a great deal of content, but for those of you who haven't had a look yet, it's all on something called Salesforce Plus this year, which seems it's actually really good, and it's quite easy to navigate. There's so much Salesforce content out there. If you're looking for something like flow or training on a specific thing, it can be difficult to kind of narrow down where to look. And so they've done some really good work kind of putting different channels in for different, depending on your interest or your role. So there is an admin channel. So I think that one of the biggest takeaways is that, you know, if you're going to start anywhere, start with that. And we're going to go through a few of the particular sessions now. Throughout the session, Nikki's going to be monitoring chat for me. So, you know, we want this to be collaborative. If you've seen stuff and if we're talking about a session and you think there's something else that you want to add to it, please do. We're all here to learn and share. As I say, the Supermums team, we've been watching as much as we can, but there's probably things, well, definitely things that we have missed as well. So please do share the knowledge. Okay, Shellin, bit of a surprise for you. I put your slide at the top. So we've been collaborating on this kind of all day. So to be honest, we've got quite a lot of stuff. We'll see how long it takes to get through. I thought Shellin's was actually quite a useful one to start out with because it kind of helps set the scene a little bit. So Shellin, I'll just hand over to you for your first slide, if that's all right.
Wonderful, of course. Thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. It's so much fun to see you. And I have to say that Dreamforce 2 years ago was my first Dreamforce. And that's where I learned about Supermums. And I was so excited. And I wasn't sure I could get more excited, but I think this year's was incredible. And I just found myself just being completely reinvigorated. And many of you from the States received the jobs report that I shared with you kind of in the conversations about the opportunities in the ecosystem and training with Supermums. And that jobs report was I thought thrilling and just showed this incredible opportunity for, you know, decade to come. And they've just released a brand new one. The IDC puts it together. It's a global research company, so it's independent, and they are showing just stunning numbers. And a couple of things that really stands out. There is a detailed report, and I encourage you to check it out. I think for all of us, it shows that we've made a great decision to train up in Salesforce and be part of this community. But the numbers that have just skyrocketed is they're expecting that in the Salesforce ecosystem, there'll be an additional 9.3 million new jobs and 1.6 trillion in new, like incrementally new business by 2026, and it's almost 2022. So that's in 4 years. So there's already a talent shortage, and there's going to be a massive talent shortage. So great opportunity for all of us. And in terms of sort of the bigger picture, is Salesforce and the ecosystem is just driving immense growth with the partner community, a lot of programs to grow and develop partner companies, and then a lot of training talent organizations as well. And so as for every dollar that Salesforce is making, and they are having banner record year, I don't know if you noticed, but Salesforce actually just had to, for their public stock numbers, they had to increase their revenue projections again by quite a significant amount. But they're expecting for every dollar that Salesforce makes, there'll be more than $6 generated within the ecosystem. So the future is bright, and I'm excited for all of us to kind of touch on the things that we'll discuss here in the overview.
Thanks, Shellen. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a great one to get started with, just for, yeah, like you said, everyone's made a really good choice. Well done. We're in the right game. Lots of opportunities to grow and develop within it. But a lot of us, a lot of you will have studied admin, whether it be with us or with another organization. You've come to us and then studied marketing cloud or consultancy. But one of the big streams that's really relevant for everyone is the admin track. And one of the sessions that drew me in and I thought would be a good place to start, and indeed I think it was, and I think it would be useful for you guys to start with if you haven't seen it yet, is the, come on slides, here we go, the future of admin success. So it leads on nicely from what Shellen was talking about. Again, there's the slide here, they use it in there, it's a screen grab of one of the slides, they use it here too, about the jobs and the growth they're expecting. But what they do in this session is go into a little bit more detail about those opportunities, talk a little bit more about what admins do. So especially if you're one of the people, I can see a few names, some of you might be newer. So if you want to know a bit more about what admins do and the opportunities they have to grow, this is a really good session to watch. I really liked a few, I've put on my slides just a few kind of quotes and particular sentences that I really remember that I think are useful. And I really like that they talked a lot about, if you're talking about, you know, what do you do as an admin? And it's about solving real world business problems and delivering real business value through technology, but also using your other skills to really implement the technology in the best way possible. And they talk a lot about this session. And yes, there's all this growth, but they talk a lot about the real issue of getting you into that first role and how you can succeed in it. So I think this is a really, you know, so much of it rang true. And I think what I was really pleased about, and Shellen, I don't know if you've watched this session yet, but I was really pleased to see that everything we've been saying and everything that we say to a lot of you when you're thinking about joining the courses is what they're saying too. So I was like, whew, really. And there's some great stuff around what they know that their partners and their customers, in terms of when they're recruiting people to manage Salesforce, what it is they're actually looking for. So if we just hop over, there we go. So there's a few sentences again that I put here, and the screen grab, which I really liked. We talk a lot about transferable skills at Supermums. It's one of the key things that we've always talked about and always known it's useful. And we're hearing it from a lot of different places now as well, that yes, the admin skills and your technical skills are important, but what actually drives business success and admin success are all the other skills you bring to the program. And I know a lot of you have backgrounds and experience in lots of different industries and lots of different types of work. And we really encourage you to value and really market those skills when you go out into the jobs market. So there's a nice list here of stuff that we talk about a lot, things that are covered in some of our courses and that we really encourage you to bring to the table and to leverage when you're talking to employers. So it was really interesting to hear Salesforce saying exactly the same thing. Communication, the learner's mindset, we're definitely going to talk a lot about that, because I think one thing that came out of it is we've all got a lot to learn in terms of flow. So learner's mindset, really important for everybody. And there's a couple of quotes here. I just need to move all your lovely faces out of the way because I can't actually see the slide right now. Here we go. There's some quotes that I really liked that really rang true with me, especially when we're talking about the importance of these skills and help you understand why they're important. This one from Gordon Nee: Salesforce is a tool and tools are used by people, and they're the ones that will define if you're successful. So we've got to remember with Salesforce, you're building a tool that people on the other end are going to use to try and do their jobs better. And if you're not making it good or useful for them, they're not going to use it, and therefore it's not going to be very useful, and you're not going to be demonstrating your value and creating worth and value within the business. So I thought that was really good. It's kind of your success is 90% people. He does a good explanation of how at the beginning, especially when you're learning, it does feel like 90% tech and 10% people, because you need to get to that level of knowledge with Salesforce. And certainly in the early days when you're learning, it is all about the tech. But then when you grow on to grow your career and you've got some of that good foundational technology under your belt, it actually kind of flips, and it's 90% people and 10% about the tech, especially when you're working on really good projects. It's all that stuff we talk about, the business analysis, the managing of projects, that is actually what's going to make you successful. And a skill that I really liked that I think should be on everyone's CV that I've never really heard of described before was consensus building. It's something he said as a quote. We've never flagged that up as a particular skill, but I realized how valuable it was when he was talking about, when you're gaining buy-in across an organization for the product, when perhaps people have different ways of approaching things, being someone at the center of the project who can bring solutions and try and build consensus among all the different types of users and stakeholders in the project is really important. So I really thought that was a good one to flag. Okay, so you talked a lot about transferable skills. What they also talked about is then, yes, you need to bring those to the table. And one of the key things you've got to do when you're new to the industry is think about how you're bridging the trust gap. So put yourself in the position of the employer. What they're looking to do is bridging the gap around, okay, so you've got the certification, but how do I know that you can do it? And that's kind of the question you've got to answer when you're going for these roles. And they really suggested finding a problem and fixing it. So if you've seen an example of something out there that you think isn't working particularly well, that could be improved with Salesforce, then to build it and to demo it. And I know that as part, I think in the employability module, we talk a lot about being able to do a demo, and that might be something expected of you in an interview. And even if it's not, telling an employer that you've got one and you could demonstrate something that you've done is a really forward-thinking thing to do. I know that we had a few people feedback on one of our alumni sessions a little while ago about how useful it was they found when they practiced giving a demo, built something out, practiced demoing it to a group of people, and then being able to use it for their interview was really, really valuable. So if you haven't got a dev org and you haven't got something like that, go away and do it. They actually give a really good example in this session about something you could build to be able to demo in something like an interview. So I definitely recommend watching that. And then I don't know if Heather's joined us yet. There's so many people starting to join. I can't keep track of everyone.
Yeah, I'm here now. Happy
Oh, hi. Hi, Heather.
Hello.
Heather's had some meetings recently, and we're just doing the same thing over and over again about looking for the business acumen. Heather, I don't know if you want to mention, just as you're there.
Yeah, no worries. So a lot of the the companies that we're working with at the moment, there's such a shortage of talent in the market that, they're basically saying, look, we just really want to hire people who've got, can have the business conversations. I've worked in business before, and we'll, support them on their Salesforce journey to kind of get up to speed. And they're really keen to work with Supermums because we tend to upskill people who've already got some of that mature business experience, really, as opposed to, where they might hire graduates who are in their 20s and haven't got that level of experience yet. So demonstrating and talking about your business acumen is really important. And I think, like probably many of you, I didn't really know what, I'd never heard of the term business analysis before. Doing but I was coaching and I was talking through processes and I was doing KPIs and I'm like, oh, actually I have done business analysis, but I just haven't called it that. So, think about anything that you've done where you've helped improve processes or looked at data analytics, and think about how you make the, basically package it as business analysis skills. You might not necessarily have, I think the biggest thing for me is we did the business analysis training to kind of formalize my approach to business analysis, but you can still talk about having business analysis experience. So yeah, I'm about to lose my voice now. I'm back.
Thanks. I just thought as you were there, I know, yeah, you've been hearing a lot of that from employers lately. So we're hearing it from all sides. So definitely, take a look at that session. I think there's some really useful little bits in there, especially for those of you who are approaching your job hunt. So go and check it out. One thing they said there on the key skills was the learning mindset, and they talk a little bit about that and the importance of that. And that's something we talk about as well, in that you'll never know it all. The admin course and Learning with Us is kind of the beginning of a journey with Salesforce, and you'll always be learning all along the way because there's always new products and new innovations, and that's one of the great and really exciting things about learning with Salesforce. But it does mean there's quite a lot to keep up with sometimes, and it can be tricky to know where to start. But I think one takeaway I got from watching various sessions is flow. And it's going to keep coming up, and it is in a few of our slides, I think, because it has definitely been a bit of a theme that we've all seen over and over again in the sessions that we've been to. So keep your learning mindset and get learning flow. Again, they give an example in this session of how you can use flow in a demo org. So I think definitely if any of you are kind of thinking of going for interviews, you know, just doing something basic with that would be a really good practice and be a good demonstration that you can understand the fundamentals. You don't need to, and this is a big thing for me that I hadn't really thought of, you don't need to start with a blank screen. I know sometimes when you're starting something, whether it be a whole new project or like even a speech or a talk, that blank screen is like the hardest bit to get over. But there are some great resources and tools out there, some really good examples you can download from the App Exchange, some templates. And I know for me, that's really helpful. So you can pick it apart and kind of see how it works and then put it back together and put together a version of your own as well. So check out what's on the App Exchange. Some tips on where to start, just to skip ahead. I think Sheila, I think you originally put this in the alumni Slack channel. There's a good beginner to advanced flows in 3 weeks webinar series. I actually just, I do have the link for that and I'll put it in the chat shortly. That's a really good place just to get started. I noticed when I looked at it just before the meeting, the website wasn't working. I'm not sure if it was me or the website, but if you just Google it, you will find it. And that's a good little step-by-step approach, a good place to start. And then there was a couple of sessions that I watched on the admin track as well, design and build apps, and then automate apps, which take you through, you know, one of the kind of Salesforce fake company examples, step by step, but it's quite useful. I think especially in the second one, automate apps, some of it is quite complex, but it's really amazing to see what the tool can do, and it really gives you a good overview of just quite what it's capable of. So yeah, get learning flow, get that learning mindset hat on and start learning flow is one of my main takeaways. Certainly top of my list. Does anyone want to add, before I move on to the next session, let me just go back actually. Does anyone want to add anything from the future of admin success? Did anyone else see it? Or does anyone else want to contribute a thought? Feel free. I can see some messages coming in chat, but I'm not quite keeping up with them all. Nikki, is there anything else?
It's me sending links, but somebody did just say something. I didn't see who it was though.
Thanks for sending the links. We'll be sending out all the links. I can put them all in the Slack channel as well afterwards. So if you don't end up grabbing them all out of the chat, don't worry, I'll put them all in the Supermums alumni Slack channel afterwards, so you can find them all.
Hey, Abigail, this is Sheila. One of the things that I thought was interesting, I knew that there were flow examples on App Exchange, but in one of the sessions, someone said there are over 900 flow templates on the App Exchange. So there's a lot more out there than what I ever would have dreamt to go use this kind of test start. So I was impressed by that number.
Yeah, and even not just to test start, like if you need a flow in your org, someone else might have built it already. So just go and get it. And that comes back, we'll kind of come round to that, that loops into one of my later slides that we'll come to in a minute. But yeah, so future of admin success, go and watch that. It's a really good place to start. Right, next one, true to the core. So I hadn't really heard of this before, but it's for those of you who don't know what true to the core is, it's sort of a bit of a Q&A with some of the top people at Salesforce and all the product leads, where it's really an opportunity for them to talk about some of the bigger picture stuff that's coming with Salesforce, what they're working on, and for people to ask questions. So there are some really good themes on that. I mean, Slack, we'll come to Slack, but if you get through Dreamforce without getting the message that Slack is now a thing, then it would surprise me. There's a lot going on with Slack. Salesforce Easy, so talking a lot, which, you know, the big impact for admins on all of that side of ease of setup, how is it actually easy to use? And true to the core, just to summarize, is all about getting back to the basics of Salesforce. And yes, there's loads of great new products and features out there, but actually are the fundamentals of what a lot of us admins have to use kind of working the best way that they could be. And a big part of what they came to that I'll just mention, because you can go and watch the session, but someone asked a question at the end about flow and what is happening with it. And because there's been quite a lot of rumors that it's coming. So yes, everything is going to be moved to Flow. So ideally, they want to have one tool that works really well for everything versus Process Builder and workflow rules, which is a bit annoying for someone who's trying to study for App Builder with all the different which do you use when, and soon it's not going to be a thing. Just use Flow for everything. So they will, and they are releasing some tools in the lead up to that. So basically, if you've got an org with Process Builder in it, you will have to eventually migrate everything to Flow. They're going to release some tools to help you do this over the next kind of year or so, and then eventually phase out them completely. They didn't really give a full date on that because they're basically going to see how it goes, see how everyone gets on with it. But yeah, have it on your radar. You do need to be learning Flow again. One question that was asked was about the level of support for Flow. So if you have a support contract, there isn't a lot of support for Flow at the moment, and they did raise that to the team, and it seemed to me like they were a bit surprised to hear that. So they were going to go away and work on making help around Flow a lot more available to everyone that needs it, especially now that you are going to have to start using it. So that was the main takeaway from True to the Core. Does anyone else have any feedback from True to the Core if you watched it? Anything else you want to bring up? It was quite a lot. It was a really interesting session to get kind of some of the bigger picture, more exciting stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So again, it's one I'd recommend that you take a look at. They talked a lot about some other specific little improvements from the community ideas as well. So do take a look at it. Alrighty. Next. So this one, I thought I really liked the little, really practical sessions. It wasn't this top 10 ways admins can supercharge ROI. So it wasn't a particularly jazzy session. It's just two guys, some slides. You know, there wasn't like Lionel Richie in the background or anything of this one. It's a pretty basic session, but it just had really practical, useful tips and things that if you're an admin now, you can go and put into practice, and great tips of things that you can be aware of, you know, if you're going into your first role and interviewing for things, just useful things to keep in mind. So automate, yep, Flow again, because if you're making things easier for users are going to like what you're doing, and then you're a popular person, basically. A big part, we all know a big part of being an admin is driving that user adoption. So anything you can do to make their life easier is gonna get the response that you want from users. Don't reinvent the wheel. Again, there's some really common themes across all the different topic areas, and so this has come up again. There are no unique Salesforce problems. Go to the App Exchange. So it's likely that if you've got an issue, someone else has had it before. So look at the ideas, the Trailblazer community, and the App Exchange for a solution, like we were just talking about with Flow. Actually read release notes. Anyone read the release notes? Anyone? Gina's put her hand up. Yeah. Okay.
I'm a nerd. What can I say?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was read the release.
The summary version or the full version, Sheila?
The short version. Not the long.
I always have best intentions to go back.
Yeah, me too, and I never do.
So yeah, it was one of their top 10 tips. I'm only sharing 4 of them with you here, but read the release notes. They may have the answers that you're looking for. So if you're really struggling with something, it might be that everyone else has, and therefore they've decided to create a solution for you. So, you know, it is one of those things, having read that, I went to look at a few things. I was like, oh yeah, there is some really useful stuff in here that actually is really helpful, and it's kind of passed me by. I haven't quite been on top of it. So make sure you're looking at the release notes, and don't waste your time building something that's probably going to be solved for you very soon. So make sure you're on top of what all the new releases are, because as well, you know, talking about supercharging your ROI, there might be some really good stuff in there that you didn't even know exists. Because it didn't exist perhaps when you did something like the admin course, because Salesforce is always innovating and responding to feedback and creating new products and processes. So make sure you are looking at those and doing the maintenance trailheads as well, obviously, and the trailheads associated with release notes, so you fully understand and can implement what you're doing. And then the final one was design smart, and it actually kind of had 3 subcategories, which I think are always really important things to remember. So there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but make sure you're designing for the 90%, not the 10%, and take them into account, but don't get too bogged down in, you know, some of the exceptions to the rules. always put UX, user experience, at the forefront. And there are some new certifications around this now, as you may have seen. Again, it's about getting user buy-in. If you're making something that people want to use, then you're going to be successful as an admin. And make it scalable and build for tomorrow, not just for today. So that's, again, part of that business analysis kind of thing that Heather was talking about, and things that we cover in things like the consultancy course, about thinking about asking your users, what do they need it for now, but what might they need it for in the future? And again, having that business acumen to understand, where is the business going to grow? Where might it change? What might I need to allow for in the future? So they were some of the top tips from that. As I say, there were 10 and they were all really good. So that is another one that I would advise you go and have a look at. It wasn't particularly long either. So I think there's a lot of value in that quite short session. All right. And is that me? That's me. I'm done. They're my top takeaways. I hope it was useful. I'm going to pass the ball over to Sheila. I believe this is your take now.
This is mine, yeah. Because I am kind of a Slack nerd as well. I used Slack before I came to Salesforce. I've liked it the whole time, but it does take some learning. So within Salesforce, now that they have bought Slack and are starting to marry the two things together, they are now seeing this, and they use, I think it was IBM and Mercedes-Benz as their examples. Is that right? But they were showing how companies are using the Slack as their digital headquarters, which I found a very fascinating term. I would not have thought of that as a term, but it makes sense. And so if you get a chance, make sure you go watch the Slack one. And it's called New Digital HQ. And so that's just a quote from the president, who I adore. I don't know how many of you think it's really cool to watch these guys, like on the True to the Core talk, but some of them are just so exceptionally smart and really have their stuff together. And I love how transparent, and I don't know if humble's the right word, but they're just so open to us, aren't they? I would have loved to have been there in person.
It was quite interesting on True to the Core, because there were things people asked the question, they're like, oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that should be better. Sorry.
Yeah, and we'll get back to you, right?
Yeah.
So I loved that. I like seeing them interact with the crowd, if you will. Will you go to the next slide, Abby?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thanks. So I don't know how many of you saw it, but there are some new features coming out. Some of them are out now, including
we know
the
who
trail.
to go to. Sheila reads all the release notes.
A couple of them are out already. Now, the thing about Slack is if you have the free version, you only get to like connect one app to it. So you can't use all the cool features. So you really have to have the paid versions in order to take advantage of it to its full extent. But a couple of the ones that are out now that are cool is the Trailhead app and Quip. So they're directly linked to your Slack, so you're not having to jump back and forth. I hate jumping back and forth between screens, so yay. Clips is coming out, where you can actually clip audio or videos and drop it in. So like the team as they're talking. I don't know how many of you have heard of Rover. I think it's called Rover. But it's where you videotape something and then you send it to someone, and then they don't have, it's asynchronistic. You don't have to get back right away. And so the conversation's always going, even if you're away from your desk, kind of thing. And that's what Clips reminded me of, is that ability to like leave a message and someone picks it up later and can come back to it. So I think that's a cool feature. It will come out winter 22, which don't get confused, because winter 22 is really like this winter, right? Because of the way they number their things. We're not coming into winter 21, right? We're coming into winter 22. Is that right? Yeah, which I find really odd, but there you go. So we're talking about just a few months from now. Zoom app. I already thought it was a something you could connect, but I guess not. But the other one that's really cool, especially for businesses, I think large enterprises, is the Slack Connect, because then you can bring your third party, your external partners into Slack without having to violate any kind of security protocol. So that is really a cool thing. And then flow and app builder, you have to believe they're going to bring flow into the picture, right? And so we're looking at next summer before that happens, but that's not that far away considering we've only had Slack less than a year. So I would love to work for a company, hint, hint, Heather, that uses Slack to its fullest and lets me play around with all these.
I've been asking for a training session for a while, Sheila, so maybe you can give me training on it, because training is part of the problem, right?
There we go.
Every time I switch it on, I'm like, overwhelmed, close it down again. So
I will train you.
Adoption training strategy put in.
Okay. I'll write myself a note right now.
It'll be like the alumni channels will be like the experimentation ground. Everyone's going to start seeing.
That's right. So don't be surprised if you jump on an alumni channel and there's some crazy flow or something happening in there. But yeah.
Actually, one of the admin sessions that I mentioned, automate apps, I think it's called. One of the ones that I mentioned that I think Nikki's already put the link into, they do bring in Slack and they show you how flows can send things to Slack and back again. And so if you want to understand that more, that session does cover that. It's great. It's amazing what it can do.
So amazing. Yeah. So anyway, I love the way that they are integrating the two things. And I think it'll be really great when one of these days you don't even have to jump screens. You can just do everything from one place. That'd be really awesome. So I think
the tab overload.
The tab overload. That's right. Chrome add-on extension is your friend for that. Just FYI.
Yeah,
did you know that?
Can you explain that? Because no, you told me about it and I haven't set it up, and it is really useful. Why don't you tell people what that is? Because
okay,
slightly non-Salesforce related, but really useful.
If you are a Chrome user, which I'm not, but in the dev world, Chrome is highly useful. There is an add-on extension that color coordinates your tabs. And so like if a developer has 100 app, it can color coordinate them so they know which one goes to which one, so they're not getting lost between them. I'll have to find the name of it, but I've had developer friends who've used it and I just thought it was really awesome. Yeah. That
is a really good little tip. And one of the other tips in the, which you might need to make at this point with all your little tips, Sheila, is in the ways to supercharge your ROI is to make a cheat sheet for your team and your users of all the little stuff like that, that you can share around, especially to drive adoption, like all the little things that you do really commonplace to navigate Salesforce that other users might not know about, that actually really changes their experience for the better. So I can feel a Supermums cheat sheet on the horizon.
Okay, I can start my cheat sheet now.
Yeah, cheat quip that we can share with the alumni community maybe.
Who's next?
So let's see whose slide comes up next. Marketing, Jen. Over to you.
That would be me. Sorry, my mouth was agog then at the Chrome Google extension thing. I love that idea. I don't have hundreds of tabs open, but I like the idea of color coding it and making it really easy to see, because there's nothing worse than skipping between and then you close one and you forget and you have to reopen it. So
just to say on that note, if you're not looking at the chat, Jen,
yes,
I can never say your surname, Canero, has just put a couple in as well.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know it existed, so thank you very much. So I tuned into lots of sessions, my favorite being Lionel Richie. I have to say, if nobody else tuned into it, it was amazing. I was having a little boogie, as I'm sure lots of people were. I didn't see Will Smith though. I don't know if anybody did tune in. I don't know if he was any good. I know Heather wanted to watch him. Did you manage?
I did, but it was completely serious. It wasn't like, I know, it wasn't
no Fresh
singing,
Prince of
it wasn't
Bel-Air, no
comedy,
singing.
it was all serious.
Oh my
No,
God.
I was so disappointed. Although I do like to hear him just talk, which is really kind of crazy.
I was kind of hoping maybe Carlton was going to come on stage and they were going to do like a little bit of dance, but I was quite disappointed.
No, but I guess he's really into social enterprises, and so they talked a lot about the social things he's doing. So he's got a lot of cool things going on, but it wasn't like his comedy or anything like that.
Okay. Oh well, never mind. Instead, I was tuning into all things marketing related, and this is one of the sessions that I did tune into. So I don't know if I have many marketers on, but definitely this was particularly interesting, and I liked seeing the 4 different speakers they had that were talking through the the new ways that you can use obviously all the marketing cloud products, etc., and Pardot. So somebody who would love to learn marketing cloud herself, I was fascinated by Einstein AI and the demo that they did, and Journey Builder and Datorama. They were really, really great. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. It was fascinating just to see how you could tailor make and make one-to-one customer journeys and tweak real-time data to make real-time advertising and just tweak and change the journeys. I think IBM and Mercedes-Benz and all those people, when they were talking through, they had snippets of how they were doing it and how they reach out to consumers. I think the Mercedes one in particular, saying like the lady had looked at a particular car and then it's all the adverts are particularly tailored on how she'd gone to things. Yeah, it was super cool, like mega impressive, completely sold. That was really, really cool. Really, really enjoyed that. And I think also I didn't realize that Pardot had its own app exchange and all of the different products that were on there that could make Pardot better, which I found quite fascinating. I kind of thought that you would just go to the normal app exchange, but they've got loads and loads of add-ons on there to make your Pardot experience better. So some nice takeaways from a marketing cloud and a Pardot exchange as well. Definitely well worth a watch. And then the next slide, little bit boring, but a little bit interesting, is the cookie session I watched. So the chap who delivered it, I forget his name, super enthusiastic about cookies, basically made me want a cup of tea and a biscuit while I was watching it. So I kind of thought I'd go over really the changes that are happening, because obviously this really affects everybody. From if you're doing your shopping online, you go on a website, maybe you're going to a baby shower and you click on looking at a baby bath, and then all of a sudden you get loads and loads of random adverts for all sorts of baby products, and you're a bit like, why? That's the third-party cookies, and that's where they get you. And obviously with the likes of GDPR coming in and the CCPA, which is obviously the American version of GDPR, it's obviously to remove that tracking from third-party companies to be able to do that. So you would only be able to have your first-party cookies. So for example, if I was to go on British Airways website or somebody like that, and I was going to look at a flight and I logged into my account, they can keep my data. I'm willingly giving it to them. I'm willingly giving them explicit consent that I'm happy for them to market to me. That's fine. But then that doesn't mean that, I don't know, some dinosaur company or pizza company down the road can then market to me, because they've obviously gone, oh, well, that person's looking at a flight. Maybe they're in a holiday mode. Maybe they might want a pizza because they don't want to cook. You see the tedious link as it goes. Obviously, they're not allowed to do that, which I think is probably really good. But equally, from a marketing perspective, obviously, it can make future marketing challenging. I think that's probably why one of the facts man was saying was that Google have postponed their phase out of it. It was meant to be, I think, by the end of next year, but they've changed their phase out of the third-party cookies to the end of 2023. And very interestingly, I didn't realize, although I probably could have done if I thought about it, they have 60% of all the web traffic market share, which is such a huge proportion of it. I suppose everyone goes to Google, they all type it in. But yeah, I just thought it was really, really fascinating. I don't know how many of you are remotely interested in cookies, but I thought that might be a useful little takeaway, and might explain why you might see less random ads maybe on your social, less random ads if you are going onto your laptop and maybe searching for things, and you're just getting more targeted, tailor-made things from actual businesses that you really have an interest in, as opposed to random rubbish from other people. That's me.
Yeah, I know the cookies thing doesn't seem like always the most interesting thing, but when you understand what it is really important, whether you're a marketer or just as a consumer and yourself going online. I know certainly since getting into Salesforce and understanding all of this a bit more, I'm a bit more careful about consenting to things when I'm on random websites that I've clicked through to. So it's a really useful thing to be aware of. So
I always used to click accept all, when you go to a website and it gives you that little button. And now I've started going reject all, because I don't really need that company to have my details, but I used to always just accept. Yeah. There is one more link on the bottom of that slide, actually. I'll pop it in the chat as well. So I found a really great summary of all the best marketer related bits from Dreamforce this year. So I popped the link there, but I'll pop it in the chat as well. It gives you like a summary of all the bits and a link to all those sessions that you can go and watch as well. So if you want to go and jump to some of those bits I spoke about, you can go there as opposed to having to trawl through lots of content.
Great,
Fine.
thank you, Jen. Yeah,
No
if you want to
problems.
put that in chat, that would be really good.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Keep an eye on chat, everyone. Okay, what have we got next? Nikki, Demo Jam.
Do you know what's amusing? I just threw my thoughts in here and didn't realise that this was like the finalised slide. When you compare it to Jen's marketing beautiful slide, and then look at this, you'll see the difference in the jobs that we do. So a brief one, well, a few things. First of all, if you I didn't get a load of chance to watch a lot of Dreamforce while it was on last week, but I've gone back and I watched a little bit this weekend, and it did a few things. One is reminded me of kind of the world that I'm in. You can kind of, you know, all of us get kind of quite bogged down in the area that, you know, in our day-to-day jobs, but actually that kind of reminder of actually I've joined this kind of wider thing, and reminded myself of that. But also I love how as a culture it celebrates success and is very deliberate, and kind of, you know, puts quite a lot of effort into celebrating success. And so kind of watching that vibe and feeling part of that was great. The reason I've put Demo Jam down is my one that I thought was useful, is because in my job, so I do training for those of you that haven't been on my course, but and one of the principles we talk about is not reinventing the wheel, and how we look at what standard functionality is there, and then we might tweak that, and then we can create custom things. And at what point, you know, would we use something from the App Exchange / get a developer to do something? And I talk through all this, but in my real life, when I'm actually doing admin stuff at Supermums or you know, various things, I forget it's there, like genuinely. And so very, very rarely think, oh, I'll have a little search on the App Exchange. So if you haven't watched Demo Jam at Dreamforce or anywhere, because in various different Salesforce contexts they do them, it's just a really fun way of getting a little insight into some of the products that we can use. So they were the ones that were in this year's one. I won't remember exactly what all of them do, but you literally get a snapshot for 3 minutes, and it's tailored towards us essentially as an audience of like people who get Salesforce but don't know what the product is necessarily. So I think that's a really useful thing to kind of watch and learn some of those things. And they're, because it's Dreamforce, they're quite large solutions, App Exchange solutions, so good ones to know. And then I was thinking about solutions that are out there, and it got mentioned earlier too, but it really is like a toolkit that we need to be developing as slightly newer admins in the ecosystem, for those of us that are. Some of you have been around longer. So using, you know, speaking to in your networks, in your user groups, with your cohort, you know, with anybody, and just finding out, look, we need to do something with backup. What are you guys using for backup? And, you know, that type of thing, and just finding out more about the App Exchange. And yeah, and just finally, I think seeing all those different things just again inspires me about the complexity and beauty of the kind of work world that we're in, because they're all potential companies, potential employers, potential, you know, things that we can get part of as well. So yeah, it's about 45 minutes long, so it's not very long, 3 minutes for each one. Really useful.
Might
there you go.
In Nikki,
Yeah.
talk about, I've put the link for our CPD program, because I think,
yes,
you know, that's the reason why we set up the CPD program, which stands for Continuing Professional Development, for those that keep asking me. But the idea is that we can be overwhelmed by all these apps and never go and check them out because there's always so much to do. So the essence of this program is that every month we'll do a focus on one product, and we'll, you know, not just talk about the product, but talk about the reason for that product. So what's best practice for data backup, what's best practice for DevOps, you know, what is DevOps, and things like that. So it's just to focus in on what are some of the other functionalities we've got to look at, and what are some of the other products that exist in that space, because there are so many. And you know, it's just like, you know, we're all mothers running around, or dads, or whatever, and there's just too much to look at. So we just really wanted to kind of make it bite-sized and informational and educational. So, because the other way of doing it is either a 3-minute demo or it's a sales call. So the idea of these and the office hours is more educational, more informational, like what are the things you need to think about, what would I consider, with an example of a product. Obviously you could go to check out other products, but it gets your head in the space of, if I'm doing a data migration, what do I need to think about? If I'm doing data backup, what are all the questions I need to ask? So yeah, hopefully you'll get involved in the CPD office hours as well. It's just another opportunity once a month to get together as a group and learn something new. So yeah, really good call on that, Nikki. Thank you for bringing that up.
And I think it's run by a familiar face, right? Is it Megan, who was on our consultancy Dreaming as well?
Yeah, it was.
One of our familiar faces. Lovely. So yeah, definitely lots of reasons to go ahead and watch the demo jam. They're always good fun. And as I say, even if you just watch them and don't, I think sometimes there is a lot of information in those things. I don't necessarily then suddenly know how to use Conquer, but it just sparks a thought and gets you thinking, gives you a really good overview. So yeah, demo jam on the list. Let me just check out, what is that? Yeah, so this is, that's pretty much the end of the things that we've seen so far, but I'm sure I definitely want to go and watch them more. And the great thing about it being all online now, and this year them being really organized with it all online, is that it's all there to watch. And I noticed, they seem to be going to a lot of effort with this online content and all the different channels they had, and not just Dreamforce. There's some really great series in there about like women in business, right at the top of Salesforce Plus, there's loads of different channels and loads of great content to go and watch. So I'd really recommend going and signing up if you haven't already. There are some questions out there coming in, Nikki, on the chat. I can see it moving. There's some questions.
There are. So a few comments and a few questions. Let me just scroll up. Amy mentioned the session about gear set this evening. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Amy. And your hatred of change sets. She may not be available. Are you there, Amy? She may not be. Button if you are there, Amy. I can't see from here.
Yeah, she's there.
You are.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, we can't.
I'm muted.
Changing settings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
You're good.
Yeah. Yeah, the session was right before this one with a couple people from GearSet. It's really cool because they have some training opportunities that are free, some ways to get a certification in GearSet, which is pretty cool, and talking a lot about DevOps and how that's something there's a really high demand for, and is especially in the Salesforce ecosystem. So it was great.
Oh, thanks, Amy. And I think one of the things just I was talking about in our consultancy skills course is the training program they've put together is about what is DevOps more generally. So if you do their certification, it's more of an informational certification to explain, your knowledge and understanding of DevOps as opposed to how to use their tool. So it's a great thing for free to add to your CV because it means you've got a certification in DevOps, not just GearSet as a product in its own right. So that's why we went with them as a partner, because they were quite, it's quite an educational piece. So like many of you, it's kind of like, right, sandboxes, change sets, what do we do? It kind of gives you the full breakdown of from novice to Rolls-Royce of change management. And you'll need that knowledge, whether you're going to be responsible for doing it or not, you'll need that knowledge at some degree so you know what to be aware of, even if you're not doing it. Hopefully you can get out of that bit unless you really love it.
Well, and Heather, off of that, I looked at a DevOps course here locally. I was looking at a hackathon a couple of years ago, and it was over a $2,000 course for just a weekend. And so I'm sure GearSets is like the beginning stages of that, but it's for free, and you can get, an introduction to this whole big thing that is really amazing. So I love, by the way, I like CPD because I like that you're partnering with the different ones to get us some free training and free learning. So thank you.
Amy had asked a question which maybe Heather's already answered, or at least maybe there isn't an answer yet. Is anything on that? I think you're wondering whether, what was it you asked?
Yeah, so I
Can't
think
see it now.
what I understand, Amy, it's about if you're integrating an app, what is it that you need to consider?
Sorry, what was the question?
I'm trying to find it. Sorry, I've got too many underneath
Just
now.
super deep of what risks we need to ID in BRD when integrating an app.
This is a work experience question that came up today, and it is around, are there risks that have to be mitigated when you are integrating an app in general, not like a specific app, but in general? And I couldn't think of any, but I think you said something about seeing elements. Would Ian maybe have some stuff on that?
I don't know. I mean, I spoke about this on our consultancy course today. I mean, the sort of highlights of it is if you're doing an integration, just make sure you've got a third party mapping document template listed out, so you kind of fully understand what's going to be mapped where. Is it a fixed value, i.e. it's a record type, or is it like-to-like value, so that you're taking over the value of the field over into Salesforce, or there's some formulas or whatever. So you've kind of got a very, one of the things to reduce risks is to just make sure you've mapped out what the logic will be, one way and two way, because I tell you what, it can get really I had a project where it was like 5 things all integrated into each other, and like my head was sort of spinning on wheels by the time I was finished. But it was all about GDPR and signing up people to mailing lists, and if they had like 5 places they could unsubscribe in 5 different systems that all had to come back into the system Salesforce. And then if somebody subscribed in one of those places, it then had to go and subscribe everybody else. So that's like, it's okay, making sure that was all kind of collected. So making sure the mapping was right and logic didn't overwrite each other was really important. So I had a lot of like pick list fields and things that said, the source of this update is from this system on this date. And so it would sort of track it. So it's quite it is complicated integrating things. You need to map it all out properly. I think the other risk that came up on one of our consultancy calls the other week is one of our consultancy trainees had person accounts, and they had integrated this app and then realized it didn't work with person accounts, only contacts and accounts. And I spent so much time and money doing it. So there's some questions up front that perhaps you need to ask about. Does it integrate with the person accounts versus contacts, depending, or MPSP, depending on what you're using? Does it integrate with the product that the different apps and objects that you're using? I haven't got a cheat sheet for that one. That's a good one to do. I'm not sure if any of these apps, whether it gets covered in anything like GearSet or not. I don't know. It's a good one. I don't know if there's a cheat sheet for that, but maybe that's something coming your way.
It's a good point, though. Something like that is again about leveraging the community if you are going to have a new app, because something like that person account thinks maybe just could have been avoided if someone said, oh, is anyone using MPSP or whatever, use this app. And then someone might have said, no, don't use that one. So yeah, it's about, again, using the community and the network. And I've seen a couple of people ask about stuff in our Slack channel as well, and getting out there, building your connections. One thing that just sprang to my mind that I'm not going to pretend that I fully understand, but that came up and that I think is quite important, again, around data. Heather just mentioned where the data has come from, and Jen was talking about cookies and apps, is I didn't watch a full session on it, but data residency that is changing within Salesforce at a really fundamental level, so that it's easier for companies to stick to data privacy laws when they vary across the world, especially a lot of it is to do with the changes that are happening with the European Union, I believe. So if you are someone who has to do a lot of data stuff, there's some, and around data privacy and the legal side, there is some big stuff to consider that's changing with Salesforce at the moment for the better, that should make your life easier. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I know that much about it, but go and have a look, because it sounds like it's quite important. So that's one last thing to add. So yeah, just a wrap up really of other stuff that's coming up. So I had mentioned CPD here, actually Heather's already mentioned that. So I think Nikki's already put the link in chat, or Heather the chat. So if you haven't already signed up for that, go and sign up for that. Jen was talking about her love of marketing and marketing cloud there. We have got the next course starting on Friday, the 8th of October. The deadline for that is coming up. So if you are interested in learning more about Marketing Cloud, joining us on that course, that's being led by Vicky. It's starts soon. So book in a chat with me or Shellen, and we'll talk you through it, can give you a few more details on that, but time is running out. And you do get your alumni discount, don't forget, on any of our following courses, including the consultancy course, the next one of which will start in the new year. So if you're looking for a new challenge for the new year, you might want to consider that too. We'll be opening up and you get a discount anyway. So yeah, you can get signed up to that for the new year. Then a couple of kind of favors to ask of you guys, really. We want to talk about and celebrate your success. We will be having a graduation event coming up soon, Tuesday the 30th of November. So save the date. I did put that in a recent email out to you guys. It will be 7:15 in the evening GMT. Sorry, I can't remember all the time zone conversions right now. I'll let you do that figuring out. But yeah, and we want to be able to shout you out and celebrate your successes. And to do that, we need to know that you have got a certification. So I meant to put in the link here to a form. I'll send it out. There is a form. It has already gone out on various communications to you, and I'll put it in the Slack channel. So please do let us know if you've got a certification, if you haven't, if you need some support, what you need to be successful, let us know, and we'll definitely take that in consideration with all our plans upcoming. And then also I've just added a success channel on Slack. So if you just want to quickly put it in there, if you've got a new cert or a new job, or it doesn't even have to be a Salesforce set, you know, if you're doing things like gear set or form assembly or Conga or project management, then just let us know. We'd really love to know. And then also I'm looking for people to tell their stories with us. So I've reached out to a few of you before to come and do our day in the life case studies, but we're looking at new formats and new ways of sharing. People have been successful. We particularly think there's some quite strong stories. I know there are, because the great thing for me is I've spoken to a few of you right at the beginning of your journeys when you're thinking, oh, shall I do this? Is this the right decision? And then seeing you all the way through to come out the other end and, you know, into roles and really loving it. And if you can put yourself back in your place, one of the things a lot of you asked me at the time is there someone who's done this before, like me? And we need to be able to tell that story to people who are thinking about it, so they can come and get some of these however million jobs that there are going to be, because we know, you know, there's a lot of opportunity here, and we want to encourage more people to come and join us here at Supermums. And your stories are the most powerful tool we have, and the most powerful thing we can do. So particularly if you were made redundant or shifted your career over the last year, particularly during the pandemic, and if you feel that, you know, you perhaps wouldn't have been able to achieve the lifestyle you've got now without working in Salesforce. I know certainly for me, you know, in my previous roles, I probably would have been out of a job by now. So I transited into Salesforce just in time, pre-pandemic, to still be here. And yeah, I couldn't have done that without Salesforce and learning Salesforce. So we want to tell some of those stories. So please do get in touch with me. I will be reaching out to a few of you specifically, but if you would like to share your story with us, yeah, please get in touch. My details, you've all got them by now, really. And you can just ping me in Slack as well. But it was lovely to see you all. We'll hang about and keep the room open for a little bit if anyone's got any questions or feedback or just wants to have a little chat. Then we will hang out here for a few more minutes, but otherwise I'll let the rest of you get off and enjoy what remains of your day or evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, Abigail. Well done.
Bye.
Bye.